Hi folks, I'm Clemson horticulturist Chase Smoke, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Japanese iris. And to simplify things and make sure you succeed at home, I'm going to break it down to what we call the 3 S's of growing Japanese iris. So the first S is going to be sun. Similar to bearded iris, but unlike our native dwarf irises, which dwarf iris here in the state require a little bit more shade, Japanese iris is going to require at least 6 to 7 hours of full sun per day. It thrives in an environment with full sun, so you want to make sure you're giving it at least 6 to 7 hours per day. And in that area where you plant it, you also want to make sure that it's well ventilated, that we're not going to get as much disease buildup if we have more air circulation in that area. The second S is going to be soil. So you want to stay in an area of around 5.5 to 5.8 in your soil pH. And how do we do that? Well, you're probably going to need to go see your local extension service, or you can even hire a private company to test your soil for you. And you want to see where your ranges are as far as acidity. So the Japanese iris likes some more acidic soil, so 5.5 to 5.8 on the pH scale. The third S is going to be saturation. So we talk about our native dwarf irises, and they tend to like drier areas. We have Iris cristata up in the Piedmont, and it takes a dry area. We have Iris crenata down here in the southern portion of the coastal plain, and it requires a little more dry area. But Japanese iris is not the same. It likes saturation. So what you're going to want to do is plant along a place that has consistent saturation. You don't want a fluctuation. So we think of most landscape plants as being plants in beds where we water each day. That's going to be a fluctuating moisture. You're going to want an area along a body of water, or maybe even in a rain garden where you place it. So consistent moisture. It can even grow in the edge, shallow water sometimes. So along water bodies or in water is going to be just fine. So you folks with rain gardens are in luck. So a lot of folks think that iris grows on a bulb, but it actually grows on what's called a rhizome, which is an underground stem. And the top of that rhizome is right here at the surface. So whenever you go to look at your pot, especially if it's a container grown iris, you kind of want to scrape down and find the top of that rhizome. We're getting to it right now. You can see the top of that stem portion right here where it starts to kind of turn a little bit brown, gets a little harder. All right, so we're going to go down to an area right beside some water. There's actually a cool trick you can do with iris. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig down. Got to put my back into it a little bit. Can't be afraid to get your hands dirty in horticulture. So we've got 2 trenches and a little bit of a raised area in the middle, okay? Here's our rhizome up in this area, and then we have the roots coming off the side. So what you want to do is you want to take these rhizomes, kind of clean them off a little bit, and we've got roots going from side to side, kind of like this, where you're kind of splitting it in half. And you can feel a hard portion kind of going along the bottom of this. You're going to take that rhizome and sit it on top of the little hump in the middle, and then you take the roots and you're going to kind of dig them down these little trenches. Put them down these little trenches that we dug out. And we'll go back in and we'll take the soil that we used before to cover up those trenches firmly. And then you want to make sure that the top of the rhizome, so this hard portion right underneath the base, is going to be covered up right to the top of it. Now, if you're living in an area that has a little bit more clay soil, you can cover it about halfway on the rhizome. But the key is just digging these little trenches on both sides, tucking it in, and there we go. We have a planted iris. And that's something that I think will do quite well right here.